Callie Finn. I am down in, I want to say sunny, beautiful South Florida, but it has not been that. I've had like about 2 days of that. No, really, like only Saturday and Sunday. It's been rainy, it's been wet, and it's really rude of us to have this weather right now with the opening of Unrivaled. But that's why I'm here. I was down here for Unrival's big opening weekend, and what a weekend it was. I think Unrivaled really delivered with this product. I was thoroughly impressed, and I'm seeing some silly like criticisms on like X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it, but I think it's ridiculous. I feel like, and it's not to say that it's a perfect product, but I like, to me, I would have to like really sit down and think about my criticisms of it right now. And any critiques that I do have for it right now at the current moment are really not related to what they put out. It's more some stuff like unrelated to the general public. You know what I mean? But like in terms of the product that they rolled out, it was amazing. The court looks amazing. The facilities are amazing. Like it looked like that even in like the pre-mock-ups that we saw. But when you get there and you actually see the court and see how beautiful it is and see the facilities and see like they have a store with all the different like merchandise and things available, it's really, really like it's cool. And I saw like the construction of like, not the construction, but like when they were getting the store together. So we saw like all the clothes and stuff, and that's like the finished product of it. And it's really, it's beautiful. And I imagine, Callie, did it look like that on the broadcast when you guys were watching it? Because I really haven't had a chance to like go back and take in what the broadcast looked like, but in the arena, the aesthetics were amazing.
Yeah, I was just thinking that I feel like we have the perfect makeup to talk about Unrivaled because you were there in person. I didn't miss a game from home. I was locked in. And I will say like the pictures that we just saw on our screen, really that's what it looked like on the broadcast. I was thoroughly impressed, like you said, with just like the streaming experience, very painless and like visually engaging. I think that that's one thing that stood out to me is reading about Unrivaled and seeing that it was going to be essentially played on like a sound stage with a small capacity for fans, like less than 1,000 fans. I was really curious what the environment might look like on screen. And I'm curious to hear about for you what it was like in person, but seeing it on screen, it seemed really like lively. It seemed like the audience was engaged, especially the first game that we got was a huge buzzer beater from Sky Diggs, and you could tell the crowd was involved in that, involved in the way that she responded. Look at that. She was like yelling at the crowd.
The celebration was great.
I was so like that moved me. That meant something to me to start a league on that type of
Look
note.
at that.
Too cool. I mean, she was talking her stuff as she should, because it wasn't the only game winner that she had. And that's another crazy thing is the winning score. I don't know if I understood that when like reading about it before it started, but then in practice, it's really cool. I mean, even when there is like a blowout, which we've seen a few of now with Unrivaled, like that winning score still matters. So I think that super cool. But yeah, I'm just curious what it looked like to you in person, what the environment was like. What are you seeing from fans? Just, I don't know, major takeaways from the in-person experience.
Yeah, I mean, the first of all, the fourth quarter, like you said, like even in the blowouts, the fourth quarter was always exciting because of that winning score. So I think that's a really cool concept, and I like that they do that. And for anyone who may not know what we're talking about, after 3 quarters, the team that has the higher score, you take whatever that score is. So let's say it's 65 for the team that's winning at the moment. You would add 11 to it. And so for the fourth quarter, that's the target score to get to. So the team that has the higher score would have to just get to 76 in that example I provided. And wherever the other opposing team is, no matter where they are, if they get to 76 first, they would win the game. And we saw that play out in the game one, where those pictures we were just showing, the Lunar Hours were actually down. The Mists were leading. The Mists really should have won that game. They let that one go and allowed Skylar Diggins to hit that amazing shot to end the game. And it was just a great way to have game one start. There was also the game within the game between Skylar and Jewel. Won't dig into that too much, but there was definitely There was definitely some stuff going on between those right now, still at this time, technically current teammates of the Seattle Storm. Jewel Lloyd has not been traded. She has not left. Skylar Diggins, they are both still members of the Seattle Storm. So it was interesting to watch that game within the game. And then the atmosphere was great. I mean, I know people were concerned about the amount, the capacity, but if you think about it, Callie, it's like the capacity is relevant to like if you fill it. So even if you're in a smaller building, but it's at capacity, it's still going to sound loud, right? And so it did. And you heard some of the players saying like it felt like the crowd was like right on top of them. And it's like a somewhat intimate setting. So like they can hear, you know, really very astutely like what the crowd is like saying and yelling, because you heard Skylar on the broadcast interview after the game, she's like, yeah, we heard who they were cheering for. So I guess she felt like fans were cheering for the opposing teams, but it really didn't feel like a home arena for anyone. Like there were definitely a lot of Liberty fans down there. Angel Reese has fans everywhere, but like generally it seemed like enthusiasm for all the teams, to be honest. And then the arena just looks beautiful. Like the moment you walk in, it's just striking. And it looked like that. It's for me, honestly, and maybe people say, Natalie, what are you doing? You should be better at this. But it's really hard to notice the difference in the compressed court because it's the length that's really different, but the width is still the same. So it doesn't, when you look at it, it doesn't look that drastically different.
Yeah. Okay. I think one thing I'm curious to hear about from you is like not the pace of the play of the game, but like the pace of the game length. So watching it from home, it feels like it flies by. Like an Unrivaled game feels like it goes by really quickly. But one thing I was thinking about was like, well, I'm watching commercials and stuff like that. If you're in person, does it feel like there are a lot of stoppages, or what does that kind of seem like? Because to me, a lot of the in-game interviews, like those are happening as the game is unfolding, which I thought was maybe good for the people in person. But what was it like seeing that?
Yeah, I mean, it does move quickly because as media, initially we were supposed to be doing the post-game availabilities all after both games ended, because there's always two games played and they're played like one after the other. So media availability for both games initially was supposed to be after the second team has played. They've already changed that policy. So now the media avail happens during halftime of the second game. And honestly, it does move quickly because I have yet to see where we go down for halftime and come back and we haven't missed like a good chunk, if not most, of the third quarter. Yeah, because it moves so quickly. And remember, like, players are players at the end of the day. You know how it is. You're a beat writer.
Podium and all that.
Right. They have like family in the audience, things like that. So they don't always like come there right away. And, and you can't always control like how long, a media avail goes. So it just is what it is. But it's like, yeah, I'm like, my gosh, like the court, like yesterday's game, for example, like the miss, I don't know what's going on, that they only scored like a handful of points. What was it, like 8 points? Or more? Like I was like, this can't be a real score. And so when I left for halftime, I mean, obviously they had more points by the second quarter, but when I came back in the third quarter, when I first walked back in, it was like, I think like a 3 or a 5 point game. And I was like, oh, wow, they made it a game, which was like shocking to me because like I missed so much of the third quarter. So yeah, it really does move quickly. I would just say the other things too, we've heard a lot about is like the childcare facilities being great. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to participate in the walkthrough. The timing just didn't work for me when it was available, but I'm going to get like some more video and pictures of it. But like Skylar was raving about it. Stewie told me to come back to her about it because I asked her, like, what are the kids? Like, what are the reports from the kids? And she said her kid, like hasn't tried it yet, but, she talked to me though about like what went into it, what they have, the nannies, the different things. So we've heard a lot of people like rave about that. You've been on the media avails, you've heard all the players just say like they have everything that they need. So that's been, really consistent. I am curious though, like before we kind of like wrap, just what it was like watching the broadcast, because I can't see that. Like, what was it like whether it was on court, the way it looked, like the broadcast, how they were talking, because I was hearing really great things about Candace and Renee.
Yeah, I think that having Candace Parker, Renee Montgomery, Lisa Leslie in game, Candace and Renee are like halftime in studio, and they are great analyzing what's happening on the court. So I think that that's really cool. Like those are just faces that you like love to see in the W. So their insight matters. They have connections to a lot of these players. So they do kind of like the TNT style, like call-in interviews a lot of the times. And so those are cool because they have such great chemistry with a lot of these players that they're interviewing. And I really enjoyed that. I think that there were like small things, like little quirks. Like there was one point, like in the first game, Lisa Leslie kept saying something about the boom boom room, and then she adjusted. She adjusted, like
someone told her.
Someone told her stop, and so she stopped. But like there were just little quirks. Like there were some just like pronunciation issues, like we were with names, and sometimes that happened with the W, like, and so, but I felt like they adjusted really quickly, like watching it game after game. By the second day of games, I didn't notice those snags anymore. And so I think too, it's funny, like a lot of WNBA players, they speak out pretty openly against like in-game interviews. They don't like doing them, but they have to do them a lot in Unrivaled. And so I don't know, they seem to be like, the players seem to be gracious about it, but I know that that's not something, I don't know if that really matters. Like as a viewer, it doesn't add that much to my experience. Neither do like the audience interviews. Like they had Steve Nash in the audience, they interviewed him, like that's cool. It's cool, but I don't know if it's like necessary. Like I'd rather.
What did Jimmy Butler say last night that people were like going crazy over? Did you happen to see it?
I didn't see him. Did they interview him on the broadcast? I must have.
I don't know. I don't know. And maybe I have to go back and look. He was there at the game last night. I saw when he entered, Wars came, and he had on like a Satu Sabli. Yeah, he was supporting her. There to support her.
If they interviewed him on air, I missed it. And it did seem like they kind of cut down on the interviews from the audience, like later in the weekend. Like same thing. I thought they were going to interview Becky Hammon. I figured they would. Maybe she was like, no, but like we didn't see her. We saw a little flash to her in the audience, but I mean, I think as a viewer, it's really cool. Like I've been watching it all weekend. My husband will walk in and be like, "You're watching Unrivaled again?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's the whole weekend." Like, sorry. No, but like I'm enjoying it. Like I think that it's fun. It feels like a marquee sports event. Like it feels very like glitz and glammy, like Miami. Like it just feels like a big thing. The thing that kind of like, I don't know if this makes sense, but like as an audience member, I almost had like fatigue by yesterday. Like by Monday, I was like, dang, this is woo, we played a lot of games, you know what I mean? So like, and it was really not that many games, but like I just don't know how they'll sustain fan engagement. And also just feels like a lot of games for the players. Like, we got 9 weeks of this. So that to me is gonna be interesting to see.
Remember, it's spaced out though, because it's like they have the weekend and then there's no games again until Friday. And I think as W fans or we are fans, but supporters, watchers, whatever it is, it feels different to us because of the way the W season is, right? Yeah. Like this is sort of normal for the NBA. And so but also we talk about the NBA season being too long. So, it's going to be interesting to see. Because I feel you. By Monday, I was sort of like, okay. And it's not that like, also the weather here sucks yesterday. So I think that was like also like affecting my mood. But I hear you, And so, and I think it's because of like the back-to-back. Because you have like the Friday. That's the general schedule. Friday, Saturday, nothing Sunday, and then Monday. So I think if it was just like Friday, Sunday, or like Friday, Monday, like 2 days, but it's 3 days. And so the other thing too is I sort of wonder, like, I get it because it was like a launch and it was just opening. I'm curious to see like if we're going to be getting the abundance of content that we're getting, because it's obviously great for the rollout and you need that. And I think it did get people engaged and got people hyped. The ticket price for opening weekend was insane. Yeah. I think it normalizes a bit after that, definitely after the first night and maybe the second night, but the ticket price was insane. But I just wonder, because sometimes there can be too much content, and so I'm curious. But at least my understanding from things that were said, I think they make a lot of their money based on content. And so it probably isn't going to slow down, but I'm just wondering at some point if it becomes too much. Like right now, I don't think it is because it just started, but it's also something that I'm sort of going to like watch and see.
Yeah, that's the fun thing. We get to just keep watching and see. We get to watch pro women's basketball in the
Yeah,
off season being played here domestically. I think that's a treat for all involved. We're all having a blast.
for sure. Well, anyways, Callie, I think it's time right now to wrap up our little Unrivaled discussion. I don't think we've left anything out. I think we hit everything. If you haven't tuned into Unrivaled, I think this gives you a good idea of like what it's like. You should. It really is very enjoyable to watch. Um, yeah, I mean, really, I don't think we are like spinning it. It really is a great product.
Yeah.
And I think it's really engaging and fun. So I'm really curious to see too what those ratings are going to be for the opening weekend. I really want to see those viewership numbers. So I'm hoping it did well. But yeah, congratulations, bravo to Unrivaled, bravo to Nafisa and Stewie for spearheading this, and uh, so many of the staff that they put together. It's not that big of a staff, and like for what they were able to pull off for this opening weekend to let this all come together, people have to remember this is a startup. And so I said what they've been able to pull off has been nothing short of remarkable. And I think people need to be mindful of that when they have all these like nitpicky type criticisms. Like, this was good. This is really good. And it's going to hopefully push the WNBA forward as well.